Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's 1 minute after the start time. We will wait for maybe like 2 to 3 more minutes to see how many more people will join, and probably like 3 minutes, 5:53 or 6:33, we'll start so we can be mindful of people's time. But thank you very much for joining. Um, You, Me, a Sacred Birth, Chapter 3, Session 3. I am going to share my screen. Because prior to our reading, we do a little bit of I said I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, here we go. Prior to meeting, hold up. We do a little bit of getting to know who the audience is using Mentimeter. Oh, my computer's going really slow. Here we go. So in the chat, um, 1 second as I play around with this. Okay, here we go. Again, thank you for joining. You, Me, a Sacred Birth, a virtual book reading and Q&A series. We are just going to go ahead and start to be mindful of the time. Thank you for joining. We'll be going over Session 3, Chapter 3, A Nurse's Love for Black Mothers, Black Births, and Black Lives, Embodying Safety and Accountability in Care. I am Dr. Karen Scott. Scotty, she, her, hers. I am the founding CEO, owner, and chief Black feminist physician scientist of Birthing Culture Rigor. I'm also the author of Sacred Birth. I also want to give a shout out and lots of love to The Educated Birth, co-founded by Cheyenne Varner, who is our partner in this series. You can go to find her work at www.theeducatedbirth.com, where we support you as you support parents with inclusive teaching tools for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. I also want to say thank you to my marketing and tech consultant, Julia Scott, who will be letting folks in the room and also um, navigating the chat and the Q&As. So with this webinar style, it's a smaller setting. This will be recorded. You can we'll be sure to put the links in the chat to the link to our Birthing Culture Rigor YouTube channel, where you can watch the recordings for sessions 1 and 2, chapters 1 and 2. And again, this is chapter 3. Julia brought to my attention that the link where the book was originally being sold through Lexington Books, which was a part of Rowman and Littlefield, which has now been acquired by Bloomsbury. The prior link where you could purchase the book with a 30% discount it takes you automatically to Bloomsbury, but the notification there is that the book is not available for purchase, which is not true. I have contacted my acquisitions editorial team and asked them to make sure that link gets updated with the correct information. So for now, sit back and relax. I'm going to read from chapter 3, about 30 minutes. We'll start off with about 15 minutes of just engaging who people are through menti.com. So if you can, pull out your other device or open a second window and go to menti.com. At the top of the screen is where you'll find that information. So join me at menti.com and enter the code 6484532. And while you do that, I will go ahead and kind of get us started with what we're talking about today. So, what if we defined safety not by protocols and checklists, but by love, protection, and belonging? So, this evening we'll witness how safety feels when care is accountable to our wholeness and humanity, when nurses lead with love, communicate with transparency, and co create care that's democratic, affirming, and liberating. So let's prepare our senses to listen to, feel, and think deeply about the lived experiences of Tasha, Mariah, and Zaria in their own words from Chapter 3, Safety and Accountability in Sacred Birth. And these are pseudonyms. Um, so let's get started with who's in the room. So again, hopefully you are um, logged into Minty.com, you put in the code. So using two letter state abbreviations, let us know where you are located right now. So nice. So thank you very much. South Carolina, New Mexico, and Colorado, I believe. So thank you for joining. We'll keep going to the next question just so you can get accustomed to using Minty.com. What is your primary role in your daily work? I have the options of advocate, administrator, practitioner, researcher. My role is not listed. And as you can see with Minty.com or Mentimeter, we can do real-time visualization of your responses. We can analyze in real time, interpret, and share in real time. So thank you very much for the people who showed up in your various contributions to the work. Now you have an opportunity to tell us briefly again about your primary role if that the tiles provided do not fully encapsulate what you do. You have an opportunity to briefly share with us your primary role in your work. Again, this is anonymous in terms of sharing the data. So whatever you type in, we won't know that it's you right now unless you tell us that it is you. But if you would like to just tell us a little bit about your primary role in your work life, I think you have 200 plus characters you can use, and you can also enter as many entries as you like. It doesn't have to be long either. Okay, thank you, first responders. Full spectrum doula. My role is to build infrastructure to support midwives, community birth, and more access to equitable care for reproductive health and positive perinatal health. Thank you, and I'll keep going. You can continue to enter your responses over time. Um, this will be up all evening. So if you can tell us a little bit about why you are joining us today. Keep writing if you're writing. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I feel like I have a lot of windows open. Give me a moment to close some windows. That may make it better, easier. Yeah, we're on the slide. Why are you joining us today? Menti.com. Give me a couple more seconds. Hopefully, this will help. Okay, I've closed some windows. Let me see if it is better. Nope, it's still going very slow. We'll try again. Sorry, I'm having tech. I hope it shows up again. So thank you for joining. We are at Minty.com. The code is in the chat. We are on a question. We're asking, why are you joining us today? And I am trying to share my screen, which it is taking forever. Mm, okay, here we go. right. So thank you for responding. One person wrote, the other half of my existence is a doctoral candidate researching Black birthing respectful maternity care experience with the support of a doula. Someone else wrote, this book club is giving me the accountability to read and discuss this important concept that has been missing from the conversation of patient safety, especially for BIPOC folks. Thank you. We'll keep going. What is your primary racial identity? We normally center pretty much everything but Blackness. And so in this space, we are identifying or recognizing our racial identity as it relates to Blackness. So either you are identifying as Black or African American or Black multiracial or non-Black multiracial or non-Black. And again, with Mentimeter, you can do real-time data visualization as well as interpretation and analysis, as well as sharing the data. So half of you are identifying as Black African American, a fourth as non-Black, Black multiracial, and another fourth as Black multiracial. And we'll keep going. How would you describe your gender? We have four options just for the sake of making it easier to visualize data. So gender non-conforming, non-binary, gender queer, or gender fluid. Woman, man, whether you're cis or transgender, woman, man, and then my gender identity is not listed. So 100% identify as women. Identify one word that comes to mind when describing mothers and birthing people. Any one word, and this should be a word cloud if I pick the right one, yes. And the word that is the largest and in the center usually is the word that is used most frequently by the group, or it's the first word. So thank you, first responder. The first word that comes to mind when describing mothers and birthing people is vulnerable. Any other thoughts? Joy and powerful. Great. We'll keep going. Um, and if you are joining, thank you for coming to session 3. We are doing our kind of collective getting to know who's in the space. Join us at menti.com. At the top of the screen and in chat, you will see the link, menti.com, and then enter the code 64845342. So this time around, identify one word that comes to mind when thinking about quality of care. What one word comes to mind when thinking about quality of care? So par, I get it. Substandard, any other? Non-existent. Yeah. I will keep going because there's only about 4 of us right now that are participating. But you can continue to add more responses. Identify one word that comes to mind when thinking about childbirth in hospital settings. Again, one word that comes to mind, sterile. Thank you. What other one word? Cold. Cold. Scared. Yes. Any other words? You can also respond more than once. Traumatic. Dangerous. Yes. So, in your own words, describe the meaning of safety. It doesn't have to be a dissertation, it doesn't have to be complete sentences, but when the word safety comes to mind, if you can write what it means, not necessarily what it looks like or how it manifests or how you would measure it or monitor it or mitigate unsafety. But when you hear the word safety, tell me in your own words what safety means. Understanding, respect, dignity, being seen, heard, the ability to have true informed consent, feeling grounded and secure where my nervous system is calm, being held and seen without judgment. Thank you for responding to that. So, based upon what you feel safety means, then how does safety show up during a hospital birth? So when describing how it shows up, it's better for the audience or someone reading to not see the same word used in the meaning. So, based upon what you were sharing beforehand, being seen, heard, respected, informed consent, what does that look like? How does safety manifest during a hospital birth? And you can write, I don't know if you don't know. But when you think about safety and what you just wrote as a meaning, how does that manifest in care during a hospital birth? Bringing outside resources in to make the hospital birth safe. Okay. What else? A smile, information sharing, the ability to ask for clarification when needed. Thank you. Thank you. Being seen, heard, understood, which kind of was part of the meaning. So I would gently ask, what does being seen mean? Or what does it feel like? What does being heard feel like? And then when I ask what it feels like, then what does it look like? Clear communication, having a team that respects my autonomy. So again, yes, respectful care was put in the meaning. But again, this work requires us to go a little bit deeper to be like, what does respect look like? Because people actually don't know what respect means or what being seen, heard, or understood means, or they have different, or they hold different types of language and values about those concepts. And since there are variations in these concepts, we don't all seem to be on the same team. When I say we, I mean we, the collective, like health system or quality and patient safety professionals. So, in the same vein, in your own words, describe the meaning of accountability. What does accountability mean to you? And we're almost done. And if you don't know, you can always write, I don't know, I'm not sure, or I think it means this. Eye contact and follow through with care. Thank you, first responder. Any other thoughts? I know this can be a little bit more challenging. Taking responsibility for my actions. Yes, thank you. Any other thoughts before I move to the next one? And again, you can always go back and continue to add other options. Taking ownership of your role, admitting and apologizing for wrongdoing in a non judgment manner, changed behavior moving forward if harm has been caused. Thank you all so very much. So, some of this I would say is a combination of meaning and manifestation. So, based upon what you either feel or believe accountability to mean, now we're asking how does it show up? So, what are the manifestations of accountability? And some of you all were able to lean more into the show up part because sometimes it is hard to provide a meaning of these concepts that we're moving towards. But as you see in my work, that's part of the problem is that we, the collective quality, patient safety, professionals, health systems, insurance companies are not sharing the same language for what these concepts mean, how they can manifest, and then how we would measure them, and then how we would monitor and mitigate them. So, again, how does accountability show up? You kind of leaned into that with the last response. Well, what does accountability during a hospital birth look like or feel like in terms of its manifestation? And then I could share with you what these Black mothers share with me when I ask them the same questions. Conversations that match actions. What else? Working as a team, speaking up for self, the mother speaking up on behalf of the mother, providers, and family. Any other thoughts? And excuse the noise. There are people cleaning our building and our windows. So it's kind of loud. proper documentation. Okay, thank you. For time, I'm going to keep going. So, two last questions because of this topic. What does a nurse's love for Black mothers, Black births, and Black lives mean to you? With that being our theme today, what does a nurse's love for Black mothers, Black births, and Black lives mean to you? And again, um, you can always not participate, or you can also participate by saying, I don't know. Or you can give, there isn't a right or wrong. This is me wanting to get a sense of the audience, what a nurse's love for Black mothers, Black births, and Black lives mean to you. And then we'll dig into what it means to Tasha, Mariah, and Zaria. Presence and acting on behalf of the birthing family, not to the culture of the hospital. Thank you, first responder. Any other thoughts or feelings? They have value. Thank you. Anyone else want to share what a nurse's love for Black mothers, Black births, and Black lives mean to you? And you can still answer any of those questions beforehand. And the last one, earlier, I asked if you could identify one word that comes to mind when describing when describing mothers and birthing people. This time I want to know what one word comes to mind when describing specifically Black mothers and birthing people. Any first one word? Beautiful, resilient. Any other one word comes to mind? And if the word that precedes your contribution is what you would want to use, you can use the same word as well. Deserving, strength. Anyone else want to offer a word? Well, thank you all for participating. If you are joining us, we were just doing some online anonymous polling, getting a sense of people's thoughts, perspectives, beliefs, or values around um, mothers and birthing people, Black mothers and birthing people, what people's perspectives were on the meaning and manifestations of concepts such as safety and accountability. So now we're at the part where we're going to go into the reading. I'm going to start with chapter 3. And again, this is You, Me, and Sacred Birth, a virtual book reading and Q&A discussion series. It's 8 parts. Thank you for joining part 3. And today is chapter 3, Safety and Accountability, a nurse's love for Black mothers. The title of today is A Nurse's Love for Black Mothers, Black Births, and Black Lives. The chapter title is Safety and Accountability in my book, Sacred Birth. So again, we'll witness how safety feels when care is accountable to our wholeness and our humanity, when nurses lead with love, communicate with with transparency, and co-create care that's democratic, affirming, and liberating. So let's prepare our senses to listen to, feel, and think deeply about the lived experiences of Tasha, Mariah, and Zaria. I was at a reunion of my singing group from college, and so I'm a little hoarse, but here we go. So as I read, you can still be at menti.com, use a code that's on the screen, and you can actually type in any thoughts, feelings, responses, reactions, or questions that you have while I'm reading in real time, and then we can address those at the end. So I will start. Tasha, this is in the words of Tasha. So I felt like they wasn't hearing me, especially in the operating room. So I thought why they were doing it and why then like the room was cold, but they were keep pushing to, get the baby out. So they were pushing me and pushing me. All of that, I like really felt sick, lightheaded. The room started spinning. I was like throwing up. And I kept telling her, I feel sick. I feel sick. I feel sick. He put a vomit hat thing. And then, they were like, oh, no one ever feels sick. Like, how could you be feeling sick? And I'm telling her, like, it's, because it's a nurse by here, and whoever you have in the room is over here. And so I'm telling the nurse who was holding my hand is that I feel sick. I feel sick. I feel sick. Like, wake up. Like, wake me up or lift me up. Give me that thing. She wasn't given nothing. She said no. She was like, no one ever complains about feeling sick. You're the first one ever. I've never heard that in all of my years of working. And I'm like, but I feel sick. I feel sick. The room was spinning. And then, like, I had to tell myself, like, to just close my eyes and try to breathe. But I just couldn't. And then all of a sudden, the throw up came up. And of course, that was a whole big old thing. And I'm like, I told you, I made sure of it this way. I admit it. She, by the way, was mad. But I'm like, I told you. And she told me, like, after it was over, after the baby came out, they put me in a room and I was trying to breastfeed her. And they said, and I'm telling her, like, my whole upper region is numb. Everything, my neck, I just feel numb. And she told me, like, oh, you're not supposed to be feeling like that. Nobody can be feeling like that. You're supposed to you're supposed to be numb from this, from the abdomen all the way down. And she was like, if anything, your feet would be numb and this and that. And I'm telling her, like, my breast feels numb. They was tingling and stuff was going on. And she was like, you can't be numb up there. And I said, I am. I don't feel the baby suckling. Like she's sucking. I can hear her. Dr. Scott, you could see her, yeah? Tasha. But I couldn't feel her because it was just, I felt like all the nerves, I was just tingling. I just remember it was tingling. Dr. Scott, so what was your response? Another speaker in the room, her response was, you couldn't be numb. She said, you couldn't be numb. Dr. Scott, did anything happen as a follow up or they just basically dismissed what you were saying? Tasha, no, she dismissed it. And it was like, no follow up. When the physician came to check on me, I did tell him that I was feeling numb. And it was like, well, give it an hour or two. And if it doesn't get better, then tell your nurse again. And I was like, okay. But it did go away the next day. But Jada, that's a long time. Tasha, still, right? I was just scared because, you have to lactate. And I'm like, am I having an allergic reaction? Or, I wasn't feeling no itchiness. It just constantly tingle, 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 tingle. But it was a painful tingle. It was like a hurt tingle, Dr. Scott. And it was all over. Tasha, just from the neck down here to my breast. Like I wasn't feeling nothing down here. Dr. Scott, so you had no acknowledgement and no real response to what you're saying, just dismissing you. Tasha, yeah. Black mothers defined safety as protection and security from unintended, unwanted, unplanned, unwelcomed harm, injury, or malicious event, experience, or outcome. The loss of protection and security from harm, injury, or malice threatens a Black mother's sense of innate human worth or dignity. With the loss of protection and security to preserving the dignity of Black mothers, then the health system violates Black mothers' right to decisional autonomy and optimal and equitable care. The safety violation combined with the lack of accountability, accepting responsibility for one's own actions, and oversight, accepting responsibility for the monitoring of others' actions, and keeping Black mothers safe undermines a Black mother's sense of belonging, psychological safety and connectedness, and dignity, innate human worth. As an autonomous agent, as an active participant in the provider patient dyad, and as a credible patient expert within the medical industrial complex. A single safety violation or a series of safety violations within an episode of care can erode a Black mother's trust and perceived self efficacy in accepting, believing, trusting, understanding, and sharing her truths and then having her truths be easily understood and believed by others. When a Black mother reports the occurrence of an event or a series of events happening within her body to one or more hospital clinicians and staff, and the immediate, initial, and follow up hospital response consists of denial and dismissiveness, the hospital commits epistemic injustice. Epistemic injustice occurs when systems, structures, institutions, groups, or individuals, or an individual denies the capacity of another individual to act as a knower and fundamentally unfairly denies the human value or dignity of the individual. According to Fricker, two fundamental epistemic practices include gaining knowledge by being told and making sense of social experiences. Thus, epistemic practices in the provision of healthcare services require collecting information from the patient about the nature, onset, frequency, duration, exacerbating or alleviating factors, intensity, timing, location, or radiating factors of symptoms or bodily events. In the above Black birthing narrative by Tasha, a Black mother in Oakland, she repeatedly communicated the occurrence of different bodily events, such as nausea with the urge to vomit and numbness and tingling in her upper body, breast area, including areolas and nipples, while the hospital nurse responded with neglect, dismissiveness, and disrespect, one of six dimensions of obstetric racism. According to Davis, the act of ignoring or dismissing a person's expressed need for reproductive help or care and or treating them with disdain is defined as neglect, dismissiveness, or disrespect. The evidence of denial of Tasha's expressed need for help and care by the hospital nurse in the operating room and later in the postpartum room manifested in nursing communication. In those moments, epistemic injustice describes the form of unfair treatment stemming from the nurse's decision to deny Tasha's knowledge, understanding, and participation in communicative practices about events occurring in her body. Consequently, the nurse denied Tasha's autonomy or free will, Tasha's agency, the power to make decisions with available options and resources, and self efficacy, Tasha's belief and confidence in making decisions or achieving goals, in meaning making and knowledge generating practices about clinical symptoms and disease manifestation. Epistemic injustice creates two byproducts: testimonial injustice and hermeneutical injustice. Testimonial injustice occurs when the system or the individual healthcare professional combines prejudice with exploitation of power differentials and dynamics, exerts dominance over the patient, and undermines the patient's credibility in meaning making and knowledge production about events in their own body. When a healthcare discipline, system, or individual denies patients and their communities of origin full participation in meaning making and knowledge production practices about events in their individual and collective bodies, the phenomenon is called hermeneutical injustice. As a result, hermeneutical injustice renders patients, their family members, and their communities of origin incapable of making sense of their own experiences and of having those experiences understood by others. The implications of epistemic injustice result in having one's meanings or knowledge contributions distorted, misheard, or misrepresented by structures, systems, or disciplines that weaponize exclusion and erasure, being silent or silenced, or invisibility and inaudibility. Based on Vivian May's scholarship that explores feminist theory and epistemology, including Black feminist thought, she asserted that Black feminist civil rights activist and public intellectual Anna Julia Cooper anticipated the concept of epistemic injustice during the 1890s by claiming that Black women are denied full and equal recognition as knowers. The women are denied, excuse me, the systemic, the systematic and structural failure to include Black women as knowers in the development and operationalization of broader, more inclusive, patient, and community focused safety meanings and measures facilitates testimonial and hermeneutical injustice. Existing literature describes the persistence of significant problems in the reporting of patient safety incidents. One specific reporting barrier includes the lack of shared language and meaning to facilitate the accurate identification and measurement of harm. Additional challenges include the lack of alternative and complementary methods for data gathering about patient safety and the utilization of these data to catalyze organizational transformation. At the close of the 19th century, patient safety focused on medical errors. The Institute of Medicine, now referred to as the National Academy of Medicine, endorsed the following definition of a medical error: the failure of a planned action to be completed as intended or the use of a wrong plan to achieve an aim. Adoption of a limited definition of safety resulted in systems denial of and/or accountability for patient harm as a possible consequence of medical errors, independent of structural or institutional intention. Subsequent research then focused on adverse events defined as an injury resulting from a medical intervention. The the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, IHI, equates adverse events with harm and offers the following definition of an adverse event as an unintended physical injury resulting from or contributed to by medical care that requires additional monitoring, treatment, or hospitalization, or that results in death. However, the different definitions and perspectives create differential assumptions and approaches to preventability, mitigation, and accountability, ultimately confounding safety measurement research in healthcare. According to the Institute of Medicine, all errors are preventable, unlike adverse events, which can either be preventable or not preventable. Interestingly, injury to healthcare workers has been included in the broader definition of healthcare safety. Despite the proliferation of scholarly articles related to patient safety, with most work addressing the measurement of specific phenomena such as inserting central lines, patient and worker falls, needle sticks, medication safety, and hospital-acquired infections, there has been little to no significant effort to incorporate patient perspectives and priorities in safety definitions and measurements. If given the opportunity, we know that patients will provide feedback on the quality, safety, and impact of care using their own lived experiences and offer novel and nuanced details about specific types of medical errors and adverse events that might be missed or underestimated using traditional reporting systems, mechanisms, and platforms. For example, patient reported events or experiences are often not expressed using the limited lexicon of clinical safety. Therefore, patient involvement in safety definition and measurements can provide more robust insights and accounts of the nature of the problem, as well as potential solutions for mitigating the onset, frequency, duration, magnitude, and reoccurrence. While the obstetric patient safety literature recognized the engagement of administrative and clinical leadership, particularly nursing leadership, substantial progress in the standardization and documentation of critical processes, establishment of national quality benchmarks, reduction in elective deliveries less than 39 weeks gestation, and reduction of post and fatal post-cesarean pulmonary embolism. With all of that, there are no safety meanings or measures in hospital-based obstetrics as defined for, by, or with Black mothers and birthing people. Organizations such as the National Quality Forum, the World Health Organization, the National Patient Safety Foundation, and many other organizations have endorsed many different definitions of patient safety. In summary, different organizations define patient safety in different ways. One way, a discipline in the healthcare sector that applies safety science methods toward the goal of achieving a trustworthy system of healthcare delivery. Patient safety is also an attribute of healthcare systems. It minimizes the incidence and impact of and maximizes recovery from adverse, adverse events, according to ARC or AHRQ. Another definition, the prevention and mitigation of harm caused by errors of omission or commission, that are associated with healthcare and involving the establishment of operational systems and processes that minimize the likelihood of errors and maximize the likelihood of intercepting them when they occur, according to another organization. According to one that you'll recognize, WHO, the World Organization, is the absence of preventable harm to a patient during the process of health harm caused by the process of health care itself from occurring to patients. Another definition: the avoidance, prevention, and amelioration of adverse events or injuries stemming from the processes of healthcare, including errors, deviations, and accidents. Safety emerges from the proper interaction of components of the healthcare system. And one last definition: the prevention of harm caused by errors of commission and omission. My overall impression of the various patient safety definitions is the atheoretical, ahistorical approach to developing meanings of safety in the provision of care to human beings. The exclusion or erasure of the influence of racism in creating and exacerbating differences in safety responses and outcomes, considering the 2000 publication of Levels of Racism by Dr. Kamar Jones. Dr. Jones provided an ecological framework for naming and recognizing levels of racism using the allegory of the gardener's tale in 2000, so 25 years ago. 3 years after her publication, so in 2003, the Institute of Medicine provided substantial evidence to confirm the existence of racial and ethnic disparities, more aptly defined as inequities and injustices, and identified many drivers of racial inequities in healthcare systems, healthcare providers, and patient and utilization managers. So, given the plethora of evidence of discrimination in the provision of healthcare, including intersectional drivers such as racial capitalism, gendered racism, misogynoir, and trans misogynoir, the existing patient safety meanings create a myopic approach that feels callous, irrelevant, inhumane, mechanical, and irresponsible. Even when searching the literature for a well developed consensus on the definition of obstetric patient safety, one finds the same rhetoric shaped by the Institute of Medicine definition of patient safety. Obstetric patient safety is defined as the absence of the potential for or the occurrence of healthcare associated injury to the patient, contributing to the larger paradigm and discussion on healthcare quality. By focusing on obstetric morbidity and mortality, obstetric patient safety applies this dichotomous framework for characterizing an obstetric quality problem as an adverse event, an outcome due to healthcare management, as opposed to the progression of natural disease or potential adverse event, which is an outcome resulting from defective processes in healthcare provision and management that have a high likelihood of causing harm. Increasing concerns for protection from potential liability fueled by obstetricians, combined with the rates of perinatal morbidity and mortality, shape the development and refinement of the existing obstetric patient safety paradigm. Yet the patient's expectations, experiences, and expressions of care remain excluded from known definitions of patient safety. The individuals and communities most impacted by the people, processes, procedures, practices, and policies that design, implement, evaluate, govern, and fund healthcare remain the least involved in safety, meaning development, measurement, selection, monitoring strategies, and accountability and oversight mechanisms. In listening to and learning from and with 36 Black mothers who gave birth in hospital settings in Oakland and Los Angeles, we developed 7 patient identified quality domains. The first domain in the Sacred Birth framework is safety and accountability. Black mothers developed a shared meaning of safety during the provision of hospital based obstetrics as the state of feeling unconditional love, whereby a Black mother is not always being in a state of fear, which then generates stressful feelings and stress responses as manifested by fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, as a daily reality, reaction, or response to hospital clinicians and staff. The feeling of unconditional love in response, the feeling of unconditional love in obstetric patient safety also conjures feelings of comfort, relaxation, and peace because of the protection security from unintended, unwanted, unplanned, unwelcomed harm, injury, or malicious events, experiences, or outcomes. According to the intellectual thoughts about Black mothers' expectations, experiences, and expressions of care by Black mothers, obstetric patient safety is determined by access to and utilization of rich and robust resources and assets, such as finances, education, training, health, well-being, stability, wisdom, transgenerational kinship ties that activate and amplify the inclusion and integration of partners, especially Black men, in care, communication, interactions, and decision making. A primary driver of obstetric patient safety is defined for by and with Black mothers is the active acknowledgement and affirmation of Black given and chosen kinships and care provision. Space making for Black given and chosen kinships throughout any hospital setting and across all phases of childbirth hospitalization, from triage, admission, labor, birth, and immediate postpartum, leads to increased perceptions and experiences of safety and trust for Black mothers and birthing people. Black mothers also expanded the application of the definition of obstetric patient safety to Black community and neighborhood safety and well-being. The expanded definition of obstetric patient safety holds hospitals accountable for curating environments of safety within hospital settings that honor the context and conditions of feeling, knowing, and being a Black woman or person first, within and outside the hospital, and beyond pregnancy and birth. By including the context and conditions of feeling, thinking, knowing, and being a Black woman within the definition of obstetric patient safety, Black women feel they have more self efficacy in controlling their future based on present day actions, opportunities, options, and resources to secure safety in birthing while Black in hospital settings. Black mothers and birthing people feel safety shows up in 8 core behaviors that can be measured, monitored, and managed in hospital based obstetric policies, processes, procedures, and practices as number one, feeling love and loved as manifested by hospitals caring for, supporting, consoling, reassuring, comforting Black mothers through gentle, affirming, mindful, motivating, and patient attitudes, language, and behavior. Number two, curating a hospital culture of belonging as defined by psychological safety and connectedness during social and clinical interactions in hospital settings where Black mothers, birthing people, and their loved ones feel seen, heard, affirmed, desired, valued, and included in the healthcare provision and decision making by a hospital system and team that is accessible, approachable, appropriate, accepting, attentive, available, accommodating, and responsive. Number three, avoiding hospital system teams. Excuse me, avoiding hospital systems, teams, or individual attitudes, language, or behaviors that result in Black mothers feeling rushed, dismissed, ignored, neglected, not listened to, or not having their questions and concerns addressed during clinical encounters and interactions, inciting and exacerbating psychological or emotional vulnerability combined with feelings of insecurity and unreliability toward hospital teams and systems and individual clinicians and staff. Number four, acknowledging, affirming, activating, and amplifying the presence and participation of the social network or kinship ties between Black mothers and her newborn, her partner, her parent, her existing children, her siblings, and her loved ones. Number five, protecting, securing, and activating patient autonomy, free will, agency, the power to make a decision or achieve a goal with optimal options, opportunities, and resources, and self efficacy, one's belief and confidence in one's ability to make a decision or achieve a goal. Number six, facilitating consistent communication and information exchange among patient, primary physician, specialist physician, hospital team, and given and chosen kin for the purposes of activating, actualizing, and amplifying the power of the patient in meaning making and knowledge production. Number seven, prioritizing infant well-being as maternal parental well-being and and prioritizing infant well-being as maternal parental well-being and maternal and parental well-being as infant well-being by avoiding the dissociation of mother birthing person from their fetus child in social and clinical interactions, communication, counseling, and decision making. And number eight, facilitating transparency and accountability at the level of the hospital teams, systems, or individual workers. Black mothers identified accountability as a solution to mitigate the onset, frequency, duration, and magnitude of obstetric racism and described the following as proposed change actions: hospital culture structures mechanisms that elicit feedback in formal and informal ways from patients about their hospital experience, and then require clinicians and staff to report, explain, or justify their actions in response to patient reported experiences to the actual patients or the public. The synthesis of the shared meanings and measures for safety and accountability established two overarching themes or manifestations: demonstration of love or being loved, and multiple levels of accountability for assuring the presence and integration of love or loving attitudes, language, and behaviors in the care provision. So, multiple times, Black mothers expressed feeling safe in the presence of nurses whose attitude, language, or behavior embodied during the provision of hospital based obstetrics care. Consider the living experiences Consider the lived experiences of Brianna, a Black mother in Oakland who explains feeling safe throughout her first overnight stay in the hospital, an admission to induce or start her labor by first preparing her cervix by administering a medication taken by mouth. The purpose of the oral medication or pill is to soften and then thin the cervix, a cervical ripening agent, as the preferred initial medication for her induction. So, Brianna, but my triage nurses and my doctor, they were all Black women. So I felt really comfortable. They took their time and explained all of the steps, and they even took the time throughout the night to explain all my options for induction because they knew if I stayed, I was going to be induced. They explained I wanted to have a natural birth. I didn't want any meds or anything. And so I just explained that to them. But I had a whole night to kind of explain that to them. And they took their time to explain to me all my options about how to do that. Not to start with Pitocin, but to do the pills first. I did everything. It was 3 days, and all of my care, every shift was full of Black women. In the individual excerpt by Brianna, who shared her lived experiences of obstetric patient safety because she felt comfortable, three phenomena occurred during her lived experience of obstetric care that created her comfort: racial and gender concordance, patience, and consistent communication and information exchange. Seeing herself and her entire team caused an immediate sense of psychological safety and connectedness. Then the entire team of Black women facilitated consistent communication and information exchange among the patient, primary physician, specialist physician, hospital team, and the given and chosen kin for the purpose of activating and amplifying the power of the patient in meaning making and knowledge production. Brianna, a Black mother, felt love and loved because the hospital team offered her continuous support and comfort in the form of relevant and responsive communication and information exchange throughout the night in a patient and deliberate manner. The hospital team of Black women curated acts of love by protecting, securing, and activating Brianna's autonomy, her free will, her agency, the power to make a decision or achieve a goal with opportunities, resources, and options, and self efficacy, one's belief and confidence in one's ability to make a decision or achieve a goal. By offering and explaining all care options related to the labor induction or physician nurse midwife initiated onset of labor. The attitude, language, and behavior of the hospital team of Black women facilitated transparency and accountability at the level of the hospital systems, teams, and individual workers. Thus, Brianna, a Black mother, felt safe based on the interaction, the communication, and information exchange, the consent, and the decision making approaches embodied by the hospital team of Black women. Black mothers describe particular kinds of behaviors, nonverbal gestures, and language choices that curated feelings or a spirit of comfort, peace, and relaxation throughout the provision of services and supports. Black mothers conceptualize patient safety as the ever presence of unconditional love for Blackness, Black people, Black reproducing bodies, Black mothers, Black parents, Black babies, and Black given and chosen kin, as conveyed in every clinical encounter and experience. Safety as a demonstration of love or feeling loved is described by Black mothers as being cared for, supported, consoled, reassured, and comforted throughout their care. Safety as love is manifested by social and clinical behaviors from hospital clinicians and staff that demonstrate gentleness, patience, and mindfulness from staff. Safety as a demonstration of love or feeling loved was exemplified by a labor and delivery nurse who visited the patient on her day off or made a special effort to return to the patient's room to say goodbye after the end of her shift. For Mariah, a Black mother in Los Angeles, safety as love manifested in the role of the nurse as cheerleader. The last nurse on my team actually delivered the twins. I called her my personal cheerleader. I pushed both of the babies out, 8-pound twins now, out within a 10-minute frame. And she's like, this is unheard of. I'll never forget, she just locked eyes with me and she was like, you can do this. And she was like, this is just one moment in time. You have the rest of your lives with these babies. Give it your all. Push. And I was like, okay. And I pushed. She was so amazing. In the above Black narrative, the nurse fulfilled Mariah's patient expectation of safety by serving as the ultimate pushing coach, showing customized energy and enthusiasm for Mariah's positionality, power, and potential as a giver and caretaker of a new life. The nurse fosters safety as love with her and for the patient, as demonstrated by locking eyes with the Black mother, reassuring the patient with her presence and her direct connection with the patient's needs. Safety as love or feeling loved inspire Black mothers to expand the definition of patient safety beyond the absence of medical errors, events, or near misses. The broader definition of patient safety centers and amplifies social, cultural, emotional, and physical safety, in which hospital behaviors, language, images, or messaging cultivate a spirit or culture of belonging. Safety as love and belonging, as defined by Black mothers and birthing people, feels seen, heard, affirmed, and included in the healthcare team. And lastly, a Black mother in Los Angeles, Zaria, shared the experience of when she requested a switch from a man nurse to a woman nurse, resulting in a Black nurse at her bedside who honored her autonomy and agency when she declined a cervical exam. Zaria's narrative demonstrated how hospital clinicians can remain engaged, connected, and attentive to patient needs even when the context of informed refusal. She was amazing. Like, she checked on me a lot, even though I told her, no, you can't check my cervix. It's hurting, referring to the contractions. But still, she was like, how are you feeling? Are you in pain? What do you need? How can I help you? She literally came and sat in the room, like basically her whole shift, like basically her whole entire shift. Like I went to sleep, I woke up and she was there. She was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like if you need anything, let me know. And when I was ready to push, the doctor wasn't there. And they had to page the doctor. And she was like, well, the doctor's going to be coming in like 10 minutes, but you can start pushing now. Like I'm going to help you. Like she didn't make me wait for the doctor to get there and start pushing. Hospitals can sustain patient safety as love and belonging, even when patients, especially Black pregnant mothers in labor, decline a cervical exam. So, thank you all for joining. If anyone has any questions, we are at time. But that is what we do for this 8-part series. We do a little bit of getting to know who's in the room and and we ask what your thoughts are about the concepts that we reviewed in the book, and then we ask if there are any questions after we do the reading. But does anyone have any questions about any of what we read today, about how in this particular part of the book, it was actually the acts of Black nurses that demonstrated to Black mothers, which were Zaria, Tasha, and Brianna, what safety meant to them? Any questions or comments about what they heard? I know, I guess we should take you all off of, since it's a smaller group, let me see how to take people off of allow your mic and your well, I think I'm gonna allow your mic and your camera so you can either type in oh, hold on. Allow mic, allow camera. So I'm allowing people to turn on their mic and their camera if they like. If someone has a question, um, anybody? No?
Dr. Scotty, I just want to say that I have to make sure that I give myself time in this when reading because it's emotional to
Yeah.
hear both the positive stories and because I want to celebrate that and also just the remembrance that these stories exist. So I
Hmm.
have to make sure I make time to take time and not think I
Hmm.
can go, from this beginning to the end because it is emotional.
Yeah, it is absolutely. That was me. Thank you, Pia, for sharing. Thank you for being here. I had to contact Donna because this is my first time writing a book. I cried so much. By the time I get to the empathy and humanity and dignity domain, I actually made the decision not to write anymore about all of the violations of dignity and decided to focus on the ways in which nurses and people's like mothers, the grandmothers, the fathers, the sisters, the siblings, and some physicians showed up to honor Black women's dignity because I felt I could not end the book and lose a whole audience with showing the violence of all the harm. So yes, we do need to take time to sit with these, even with the words, and then reading them aloud, um, and give ourselves the opportunity to feel and think about it and to reflect upon it. Because I'm sure we are empathizing, and um, how do we do that and still honor our own trauma or our own grief and knowing that other people are suffering? So yeah, definitely please take time. Even during these sessions, even when you watch the recordings, I invite you to consider just extending much grace and gentleness in yourself as you're reading about Black women discussing their suffering, but also their healing and some of the examples that I am able to share when they're when quality is being affirmed and not being violated. I think now you have to take yourself off of mute because I think I hopefully so. Um, Mora, I'm hopefully saying your name correctly. Oh no. I Let me see if I do that. Yeah, no, allow the mic. Oh no. See if you can try it again. If not, maybe you can type something in the chat box. Is it Zakia? Are you able to unmute? No, did I make it bad for everybody? Let me see if I can go in and try to unmute everybody. No. Oh. Okay, well, if you have something that you want to type, I'm sorry that I can't hear you all. Um, but if you want to type out what you were saying and we can read it off in the chat. And I think in the future, because the numbers have been small, no more than like 15 or so, I will just give everybody access to turn on their cameras and microphones, and they can self-mute in the process. Um, so I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Zakia. Wrote, the lived experience are always amazing. As I listened and reflected on my study interviews and my own experiences, they're so similar but so unique at the same time. Absolutely. And please be mindful. Thank you for sharing that had I curated and hosted these focus groups in 2019, specifically February and March. So this is 6 years later. Um, things are so relevant. Thank you, Zakia. Things are still so relevant and that they're still happening. And the fact that hospitals and insurance companies and public health scholars and MCH scholars are still wanting more data to describe the harm when what people said in 2019 is still very relevant today. Thank you, Zakia. And then is it Mora? Did you type something? Maybe. Um, but you can also watch sessions 1 and 2. They're on the YouTube channel. Thank you. Yes. You can look at that. Cheyenne Varner, who's also our collaborator in this, is needed to take the evening off, but she should be emailing you all a survey evaluation of this. And again, this is just informal. I do a little bit of eliciting your perspectives on ideas related to the chapter, and then I read. And just to get people aware that the book is available, I hope that you begin to share the book in your own support of clients, of families, and your own work in advocacy, activism, and your scholarship. Hopefully, you'll cite it as well, and that you will just share information about the book with folks so that they can utilize it. And Zakia wrote, my experiences were in 1997, Oakland, and 2013, Vallejo. Yep. Yeah. So these are 36 Black mothers from Oakland and Los Angeles who gave birth. And they sat with me in two Black women-led community-based organizations, Black Women for Wellness and the African American Breastfeeding Cultural Outreach Task Force, BCOT, in LA and Oakland, respectively. But thank you all. The next one will be at the end of
Yeah,
June.
hi,
Oh,
I'm able to.
hi! Yay! We hear
Hi,
you. Hi.
finally. You know, it's about almost 22 a.m., very early hours of the morning. I'm in South Africa.
Oh, wow. Hi.
Yes, hi, yeah, thank you so much. I must say, the book is remarkable and the stories you shared. And it's quite interesting for me that, so much as there are similarities in the first space, you are also, sharing, commonalities as well. Obstetric violence is experienced everywhere. Even here, we see quite a lot of cases
Mm-hmm.
that are really, prevalent. And then also, my wish is that, in the international community, as we are
Mm-hmm.
in the states as well, let us continue to empower each other
Mm-hmm.
and then as well share resources if it's possible because I'm a doula myself. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also a child-based educator, also a
Mm-hmm.
lactation counselor. So yeah, the work is enormous, but we are
Yeah.
heavily under-resourced as well. Hence, I'm saying it's a remarkable work. If really I'm in this platform, then I get to learn. The more I get to learn, the more I get to hear your stories and see and resonate that there are really similar, commonalities and occurrences that are happening in the maternal birth spaces. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
keep up the good work. I
Oh,
really enjoy it. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for being up so late or so early. And thank you for not only joining, participating, but writing and then getting your and sharing with us. And I completely agree. The state of our country, the United States, and then the world over, I'm hoping that we can do more support of each other, more cross-cultural and linguistic like translation of obstetric violence and obstetric racism across different countries because it is happening. You know,
Right.
to many of us, to many of our communities who are having to utilize a system, right? Like a facility to give birth as opposed to being in the first words come out being in the loving arms of of midwives or traditional midwives. And even with that, depending on right where traditional midwives are practicing and what is their North Star, that can also be harm in that way. So yes, I agree. Thank you, Pia. um, and I just welcome you all to participate in the next one. The link is in the chat. So if you want to watch the other 3 prior sessions, please do. Please feel free to contact us. We're on social media. You can also leave messages for us through our website. And we will see you all again for part 4, chapter 4. And that is going to be on bodily and decisional autonomy. So thank you all so very much. And I will stop